For those of you just joining, we are waiting on a quorum of Amherst members. We are having a slightly different start time than usual, so I will contact some of the members just to remind them that we're starting now. Okay, I know that Bridget told me she was going to join by phone to start with, and I see a phone number. Bridget, is that you? Can you unmute for a second and just confirm that that's you?
Yep, that's me.
Perfect. All right, so we have a quorum, so why don't we get started? I'm going to call the August 19th meeting of the Amherst School Committee to order. Our first order of business is, oh, sorry, we have to do a roll call attendance since we are virtual. So I'll go with Bridget first. Bridget, are you here? Sorry, well, you know what? We already heard from Bridget. We know that she can hear us and we can hear her. Deb.
Here.
And Jennifer is here. Okay, so our first order of business is public comment. We did receive 2 public comment emails, and they will be posted in board docs before the end of tonight's meeting. They will be posted shortly. Are there any members of the public who'd like to give public comment? And if you do, I'm going to ask you to raise your digital hand. You can do that using the hand function on your screen, or if you're on a mobile device, you might need to tap or use the menu to find the hand. So if there are any members of the public who wish to give public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any public comment. So our next item of business is the chair's update. So I have, let's see, I have 2 updates. The first is that the first day celebration, which the district throws at the beginning of each school year, will take place on Monday, August 25th at Kendrick Park from 4:30 to 5:30. We're very excited about it, and I know that the central office and the school folks have been busy putting that together. There's going to be a sensory-friendly portion from 4:30 to 5, which I think is fantastic, and then the event will be 4:30 to 5:30, and there will be ice cream for all students who attend. The next thing I just wanted to share is that I am aware that the Amherst Town Council voted to approve a memo to send to the Amherst School Committee. I believe they voted on it in June, but I have not received that memo. I have inquired of the Town Council president, and I still have not received it. So I just wanted to let members and the public know that even though we are aware that they publicly voted to approve that memo, we have not received it. So I just wanted to let people know about that. The next agenda item is school committee member updates. Are there any school committee members who wish to give an update? Deb.
Hi, the elementary school building committee met on Friday, and there's been a development in terms of the surface for the new elementary school playground. The surface that had been intended to be used is corkine, which is what's called a poured in place cork, which is a cork material bonded together with the same kinds of materials other poured in places are. Long story about why we came about it, and why it was chosen. It is more expensive, it is proprietary, and the town is installing it itself rather than the group, the company that's overseeing the whole project. But the Bob Parent, who oversees a lot of the town's capital projects, took a visit to a local elementary school in Easton, I think, where there was an installation and there was a problem. It's not, as far as I came on to the elementary school building committee at the very tail end of these discussions. So I don't really know that much about it, except for the fact that it is the only accessible material that Conservation Committee felt was adequate to put on that site because it is right next to the Fort River. And concerns about poured in place rubber, which leaches materials into the ground, um, it was deemed inappropriate. And there's also some accessibility concerns about poured in place rubber in terms of its temperature and people who use different, who don't wear shoes necessarily, to locomate, locomote. So that will be voted on next month. What to do instead? It's not clear that Corkine is not going to be used, but right now we really just don't have anything for the playground that the committee feels is going to work. I think that about sums it up.
Thank you, Deb. I know you and I had a brief conversation about this, and you had mentioned that you requested examples of successful installations of this in school environments. And I think that's a really great idea. And I would love for the committee to consider those as well. Because of course we should consider cases when there's been unsuccessful installations. But if there are also successful installations out there, we could find out what they did differently or just have other narratives to balance out the unsuccessful installation. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Okay, any other school committee member announcements? So next we're going to move to the superintendent's update. Dr. Z, I'll let you take it away.
Sure. I attached it to board docs. It's really brief because it's the start of the school year. So I'm just going to walk it through verbally and not project it. As always, we have our three overarching priorities that I came in with, but I think those priorities are going to shift as the new school year starts. We had a great, and I'm going to pivot on some things. I want to start off by talking about the great admin week that we had as a leadership team. With all district leadership, all three districts. It was really great. And for me, it was really reflective as to where we are after my first year and more so how we plan to move forward as a team and continue that cohesive work. So I really have to acknowledge the leadership team that I have and how great it is to work with them. There was the annual backpack distribution. Thank you to the Family Center and to everyone who came out, our partners, Amherst Rec, APD, CRESS. Families received support, and I believe we gave out over 500 backpacks were distributed. And so this is a great initiative that we're able to start to drum up the excitement for our families and our students around like, hey, school is coming in. I wasn't able to attend this year, but I did see some smiling faces. And so thank you to Dr. Guevara, to Marta for leading this initiative and making sure if there are any families who are listening who may not have been able to come out and receive any supplies or get any supports, please reach out to the Family Center because that is one of the main roles of the Family Center, to support our families in need. And so if there's ever, or just to support our families in general. And so if there's any families who did not get to take advantage of it and would like to take advantage, please reach out to the Family Center. Next week, thank you, Jennifer, for talking about first day celebration. We also have convocation coming up, and we have our great first day of school. And for some reason, I thought it was a full day, but again, I was corrected today. It's not. So on Wednesday, August 27th, we will have our first day of school. And yes, this year we will have a sensory hour for our first day celebration. That was some feedback that we received from CPAC. And so we're able to make sure that all of our students feel welcome and are able to take part in their celebration. We have our kindergarten orientations, our meet and greets, our new family nights, our new family orientations, all coming up at our different schools. Our school leaders are excited. They've been sharing information via Parent Square. I've been seeing emails going out, so I know that communication is being shared, and I'm very excited to see not just the smiling faces of students, but that of our staff as well. Um, and then we have an initiative. We know that we have the new school that's coming forward. And I'll talk some more about our sixth grade as well. And so we actually need two names. We need names for our sixth grade school, and we need names for our new school that's being built. And so we're engaging the community. We're going to start with our QR code at the first day celebration. And then we're going to ask for individuals. We're going to try and see if we can get some businesses to post our QR posters. We're going to post it up in our schools so that we can start to garner feedback from the community, from parents, some students around, hey, how would I like, what would I like the schools to be named? The process that we're going to do is once we get that, our internal committee, our leadership committee, who meets bi-weekly, we're going to look at the majority of names and come up with a voting process, and then kind of whittle it down to the top ones that get the top votes and share that with the committee so that the committee can make the final decision for our two school names that we're going to have. And I am excited for the start of my second school year. I am excited for the start of this school year. And I'm also very nervous because this is a big transitional year for the Amherst district. And so we're still going, we're going from 3 buildings to 2 buildings, but we still have 3 schools that we're going to be running. So it's a year for us. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize the leaders that joined this evening to support and to chime in on this conversation, because we are all excited about it. So that's my update.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I see that we have Sarah Marshall here, so let's just make sure that Sarah, you can hear us and we can hear you.
Yes, and I apologize for my lateness. I had 6:30 on my mind, but I don't see, is Bridget or Irv in attendance?
Uh,
Because I don't see
Bridget is
their,
in attendance. Bridget is in attendance by phone, and Irv
okay,
is not in attendance. Thank you, and
okay.
Deb and I are here.
So I gather
Were
I
there,
came in during the superintendent's update? Excuse me.
yes,
Okay.
yes, you did. Did you have any, just because you weren't here during school committee member updates, did you have any updates?
Well, only that, and Dr. Z has mentioned it. I'm very glad to see that the first day celebration will include a sensory appropriate hour at the start. That's wonderful. Thank you. I think I raised that last year, so
Great.
that's
Thank
super.
you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I agree. I think that's great. Okay, our next agenda item is warrants. There are no warrants posted right now, but they will be posted by the end of the evening. Yes, Sarah.
I'm so sorry. This is my fault for being late, but um, or or maybe we have. Sorry, Dr. Z hasn't yet talked about this, the sixth grade plan and the.
That's right. That's coming up
Okay,
next.
okay. I'm
One of
sorry.
the-
I'll hold my
Okay,
questions.
no problem. Um, Warrants will be posted before the end of the before the end of the evening. We don't have any gifts that I know of. So our next agenda item is policy ACAA. This is a policy that was has already been approved by the Regional School Committee and the Pelham School Committee, and it's going to be a policy that applies in all 3 districts. And so this is the first read of this policy with the Amherst School Committee. But as I said, it's already gotten approved by the other 2 committees, and it has already gotten some input and feedback. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about and we're going to vote to temporarily suspend the typical policy sequence that's dictated in our policy BG, policy on policies. The typical sequence is that there's a first read of a policy to get input from members and input from the public. And it's not, you typically not voted on the first time it's read by a committee, and then it's typically voted on at the second read. But we're going to vote to temporarily suspend that sequence in order to approve this policy tonight. And then we will vote on approving the policy. Are there any questions or comments or concerns before we jump in with that? Yes, Deb.
Yeah, I recognize that we already went through this at the region, but I would feel more comfortable if we needed to get this voted before the beginning of the school year, to have a short meeting next week, at the beginning of next week, instead of voting it tonight, because it's a different audience and different people watch the videos, different people watch in real time. And I think in extenuating circumstances, it makes sense to to fast track something, but I don't see this as an extenuating circumstance for this district.
Your concern is noted. I'm going to still, uh, I'm still going to go ahead and call on the votes and see how things shake out. I do believe these are extenuating circumstances and that we do want these policies in place before teachers return. And I believe students are returning next week and teachers are returning sooner than that. So I do see this as an extenuating circumstance. So I'm going to, I hear your concern, Deb, but I'm going to go ahead and call on the two votes anyway. I see Sarah's hand up and then Dr. Z.
Yeah, I have to agree with Deb because we had ample time. It was only because meetings weren't properly noticed that this committee did not already have a first and a second read. So it's not really an emergency, and I am happy to come to a second read next week.
So noted. Dr. Z?
So I'm going to say that because I'm going to actually pivot and say that because this policy actually calls for, after the last meeting, a shift and change in implementation across all districts. For example, I was asked for the schools to create a student bill of rights. I was asked for um, staff training to be, because I actually have to take this and now identify mandatory staff training. If I am doing this as a leader for two districts, that kind of puts the Amherst district at a deficit. So it's not just around what's happening with the implementation of it for students, it's also what's going to happen for the implementation of it for staff. I shared the policy, I believe, this week with the draft with all leaders, and they themselves had some feedback in the conversation that we have. We have to schedule time to sit down and meet and talk about that, but it really would help, especially with how we would like to move forward as a cohesive leadership team, if we are making these decisions and having these conversations one time. We are working on consistency across leadership practices, and so I hear everyone. I also would like everyone to understand, and we just announced that next week is a really busy week, because Monday evening is first day celebration, and I have a first day celebration in Pelham. There's also the regional school committee meeting Tuesday. So school starts on Wednesday, and we have to have all of these things up so that the the school leaders can update their handbooks and their practices so that the school committee could then vote on them as well. So I just want you to say, like, the urgency is not just in what happens to students, but in terms of the leadership team and being able to implement practices, there is an urgency in this.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I see Sarah and then Deb.
Yeah, we could meet on Friday, this Friday, if a meeting is noticed. British shaking her head. Um, would that impede your plans, Dr. Z? I mean, I plan on voting for for the policy because I already voted for it. But anyway, that's my question. Would this really cause a problem for you if we didn't vote until Friday?
The way how I see it is then, and maybe I'm seeing it wrong, so I'm going to open it up to the committee to say something. I would be implementing a policy, like I would be working with the regional principals and the Pelham principal for how this actually is implemented versus working with all principals in making these changes, right? And so I've already began a discussion with all principals around what's happening. If Amherst, for some reason, tweaks or changes a part of the policy, in terms of what that's my thing. If Amherst is going to make an amendment, a change to the policy, if something's going to happen different for the Amherst district, that shifts how the leaders then have to implement and what they have to move with in terms of my implementation, supporting them in their implementation, what they're going to put in place. And so I would prefer that they have a clear picture before next week. It's already they're already pivoting now, so I would prefer that.
Can I follow up then? And
Sure, go ahead.
suggest that we find out if anyone here would suggest any changes, and if they're not, then you could move forward. Dr. Z could move forward with that understanding, and we could vote on Friday.
Okay, I mean, we can certainly talk about that as we talk about the vote on the vote that we may take on the policy. But if we discuss it tonight and we say we're not going to make any changes tonight, then why wouldn't we vote on it tonight? Then in essence we are voting. I don't know. I think if we're saying, well, we don't want to make any changes, we just don't want to vote on it tonight. I think that I hear people's concern. Deb, I'll call on you in a second. I hear people's concerns about the having a first read and a second read, and that is definitely the school committee policy to have a first read and a second read. We also have the ability to temporarily suspend our policies, and that's written into the policy to be able to do that. This is a case where I don't see any downside. I don't see a large downside to the Amherst School Committee approving this policy tonight. I mean, I think there are extenuating circumstances. I think this is a policy that has been thoroughly vetted, and it's highly unlikely and for the Amherst School Committee to approve something different than what the region and Pelham have approved, which is not to say that we're forced to approve it, but that we all, as far as I know, we all believe in it, and we have policies for a reason. But I think this is a case where the policy is working against us, and it's working against this, and it's working against the district, and we do have the ability to suspend our policies temporarily. That's all I'll say for now. I see Deb and then Bridget.
Bridget wants to go ahead. I've already spoken.
I'm calling on you, Deb. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm still going to vote no. I think, again, that I would like to give the Amherst School community the opportunity to see that this has been noticed and react to it, including anybody who might provide feedback from the elementary school staff.
Thank you, Bridget.
Well, I would say first that I think that the part of the argument that Deb's making to me is that's most compelling is the part that talks about being able to get the input from elementary staff or maybe even parents who may be tuning in after seeing the video. On the other hand, I feel very much like this committee and a lot of the community has already really tuned in to the substance and the issues driving this policy. We already listened to feedback from the teachers union and from other components at our last meeting. And I felt like, I mean, this committee was there and voted unanimously for the policy there. There may be some things that are slightly different on the elementary school level, but it seems to me that would probably happen on the programmatic aspect and the element of Dr. Z being able to streamline her time and her staff and us also streamlining our processes because we do put a lot of time and energy into this. And we may not even get a quorum if we come on Friday from the commitments that I understand other people on this committee have. So I'm going to vote in favor, even though I really do actually understand what Deb's saying as well.
Thank you, Bridget. Deb?
So my last comment is that the processes that took place in June, the meetings that took place, the decisions that took place did not sit well with me. And I'm not eager to start the school year off in haste. I understand the relevance of this, and I feel like the process needs, well, in my mind, it should not be driven by expediency for these are separate districts. I understand we have one superintendent for all of them, but I really don't want to make the same mistakes that I think we made in June, and especially ahead of the meeting that we're having tomorrow about protocols and procedures within the school committee. I'm not eager to, at this point in time, override or suspend a policy without having a more rigorous conversation overall about the functioning of the districts, the committee meetings in particular.
Thank you, Deb. Sarah?
Yes, I wonder if any of the 4 members here who would be able to attend a meeting on Friday. Am I the only one? Anytime on Friday?
I'm going to, as the chair, I'm going to pause on that topic until we see whether the vote passes. And if we need to schedule a second meeting in order to pass the policy, I'm open to doing that if it's needed. All right. So I want to say again that this is a strong policy. It was created by a joint policy subcommittee made up of representatives from all 3 districts. It's not a policy I have any concerns about at all. I don't think it's a policy that's controversial in terms of its intent to protect students. In general, yes, I will almost always push for more community input, but this is a case where I'm hearing from our superintendent that it's important to have this policy approved tonight. I'm hearing that I myself don't want to have a meeting on Friday. I mean, I'm willing to if it's necessary. But this is a case where there are no red flags to me here in this specific case about suspending our policy on policies and approving ACAA tonight. If I did have concerns about suspending the policy and the typical procedure, I would definitely raise them. But this is a case where I don't see any, there are no red flags to me about doing this tonight. So I am going to go ahead, and we can continue discussing after I make the motion, but I'm going to go ahead and move that first, that the Amherst School Committee vote to temporarily suspend policy sequence dictated in Section B of Policy BG, School Committee's Policies, in order to vote on approving policy ACAA tonight. Policy ACAA being commitment to identity affirming school culture and staff accountability. So I've made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bridget. Any discussion before we vote on the motion to suspend sequence? Sarah?
Yeah. So I would like community input, but I would expect that any community input might be to make the policy stronger and not weaker. And I hear the superintendent's desire to have this settled tonight or this week, and I gather I'm the only one who would show up on Friday. So with reluctance, I'll vote to suspend the policy, but I reiterate, there was plenty of time for us to have 2 reads for this. So it's not really an emergency. It's not a situation that came up with no notice.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, I'm going to, let's vote on the motion to suspend. Deb, how do you vote? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I abstain.
Oh, abstain. Jennifer is a yes. Bridget?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 3 yeses, 0 no's, 1 abstention, and 1 absent. All right, so that motion passes. The next motion I will make is to vote to approve policy ACAA, commitment to identity affirming school culture and staff accountability. And by the way, this policy can be viewed on board docs in today's meeting. Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
Thank you, Sarah. And Sarah, do you have a comment?
Yeah, well, a question. Is the
Yeah.
version that you posted the version that the region passed?
Yes, the version posted is the version that the region passed.
And Pelham, presumably. You
And
said?
Pelham, yes.
Okay, thank
The
you.
region and Pelham, yes.
Okay.
All right. Any comments, questions, or concerns before we bring this to a vote? Okay, so we're voting on policy ACAA. Let's start with Sarah.
Aye.
Bridget,
Yes.
Jennifer is a yes, and Deb,
Yes.
that is 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstaining, and 1 absent. Thank you so much for approving this policy. I apologize for my inadequacies and inefficiencies for not properly noticing the previous meeting that partly put us in this position. But I appreciate you all being willing to work with me and with the district and work together as a committee to get this approved. Thank you. All right, our next agenda item is an update on the Amherst K through 6 restructuring. Dr. Z, would you like to take it away?
She just needs one moment. She had to
Sure.
step to the restroom. She
Okay,
will be
no
right back.
problem. No problem. So I guess I'll introduce this by setting the scene. I think most people are probably aware of what's happening, but in essence, the this fall of 25, we're starting our new school year next week. For fall of 26, for the beginning of the 2026 school year, there will be a lot of changes in the Amherst Elementary District. The Fort River and Wildwood buildings will be closed, and the new building, the new school building, which is being built on the Fort River site, will be opened for business in the fall of 27. Also in that year, our 6th graders will be housed in the middle school building. And they're not going to be enrolled in the Amherst Regional Middle School. They will still be Amherst Elementary students, and they will receive their education in the middle school building. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of decisions to be made, and a lot of people have questions about what next year is going to look like. And that is part of, and that's all of those decisions and all of that planning is being referred to as the Amherst K through 6 restructuring. So, Dr. Z, we approved the policy, and now we're moving on to the next agenda item.
Thank you. I needed a minute. So Megan is going to bring up the PowerPoint, and we're just going to walk through it. It's really to go over it, and thank you, Jennifer, for that summation. Couple things that's not included in the PowerPoint. In our meetings with Desi recently, we were trying to clarify how the 6th grade academy would actually look and what it would register as. In that meeting, it was clarified that actually in Desi's system, it wouldn't be an academy, it would be a 6th grade school. So even though it'll be housed at the middle school, it still will be listed. Amherst will still be in Desi's system as having 3 schools. One would just be a dedicated 6th grade school. And then we would have our 2 buildings, Crocker and then a new elementary that would be K5. I wanted to start off by saying that, and I said this before, it was a great admin week. And more so, I think after admin week, we've had our virtual leadership meetings, and we're supposed to meet bi-weekly to update each other and work with each other on this restructuring update. And the leadership is excited. The leaders are all excited about how Amherst is going to look in the 2026 school year. And we want to make sure that the community is walking this process with us. And some of the key considerations that we want everyone to understand is we know that initially we're thinking about buildings. And when we think about buildings, we're thinking, okay, well, this affects Fort River and Wildwood, but it actually affects Fort River, Wildwood, and Crocker Farm. Um, there's some things that as we walk through, we're going to talk about whether it's staffing, whether it's academics, whatever it is that we talk about, we're talking from the lens of Amherst, Cracker Farm, Fort River, and Wildwood, because this affects all three school buildings. And so on our next slide, we start off by talking about um, our program design, and Tanya has been leading this section of the work. So she's going to introduce and speak about our program design, our curriculum, and some of the products and what has come from it.
Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to see you. I had the pleasure of working with principals, the elementary principals in Amherst, over the course of the summer, starting in June through July. And what we were doing was developing shared understanding and consistencies around all three buildings about what we have going into the 26-27 school year. It's important to note that what I'm sharing with you tonight reflects a broader vision around equitable access for students, and ensuring that students, whether they attend Crocker Farm or the new K-5 elementary school, that there are some shared understandings and commitments, and that students have a wonderful opportunity no matter what school they are in Amherst. So when we talk about instructional equity across all K-6 schools, what we're talking about is a shared commitment around curriculum, class sizes, alignments, and then also consistency around equitable experiences across the district. Our goal is to ensure that instructional quality is the same no matter which school, which of the three schools that students go to in Amherst, be a sixth grade school, Crocker Farm, or the new school. We also worked with Mary Michaelides this summer to develop our shared vision around instructional coherence and equity across buildings. Stephanie Joyce is one of our curriculum instruction admin officers, and she worked with us as we did that. When we talked about consistency in curriculum and instructional supports, what we were looking at is what particular curriculum are we using, and ensuring that all teachers have opportunities to become familiar with the curriculum, get training on the curriculum. We'll be using magnetic foundations from K2 and magnetic reading 3-5. And even in our Cominantes classrooms, we have curriculum around Messiah Fundamentos that will be used there. What we developed was that in 25-26, teachers and buildings and principals, they're going to be working on some of this coherence that we're talking about through PD's training, through alignments and learning walks, to ensure that teachers have the same understanding. So again, equity is about ensuring that people have the same access. And we want to make sure that teachers have opportunities to collaborate and really develop a model that really enhances opportunity for all students. When we look at specialized programs, one of the things we did in one of our summer work sessions, and these were work sessions, not meetings, principals were working through different aspects of the move in terms of buildings as well as curriculum. And Joanne Smith joined us as we talked about specialized programs. And what we did was we recommended that our Cominantes dual language program, AIMS, ILC, building blocks, all be housed at the new K-5 elementary. And one of the reasons around it was really grounded in making sure that students had access, that there was appropriate staffing, that it met the physical, sensory, and accessibility needs of students, and then maximizing cross-program coverage. So having the opportunity for all programs to be in the building provided an opportunity for different types of collaboration around all three specialized SE programs, where there could be shared staffing and shared collaboration there. When we think about our strengthening and enriching student supports, what we're talking about is how do we ensure that there's dedicated time for our specials, our enrichment, our SEL, our social emotional learning, interventions, academic support, and what's that look like across the buildings? So making sure that we're attending to those, and making sure that the principals, as they work and we build with the new leadership of what happens for the new school and the new sixth grade school, that there is alignment across the schools. Even though the kids will be housed in the middle school, this is an elementary school that we're trying to ensure that has the same opportunities for students to have enrichment interventions, all of those particular things there. And then, although this is a high level overview, I just want you to know that we've been working with with Mary to develop draft schedules. So principals got together, they talked about the things that were needed, what things they had in common among their three buildings, even though they have different schedules right now, and what would that look like when we transition to the new school. And we're just really working and tweaking on those draft schedules to make sure that we're in alignment. And when we got to the sixth grade school, we brought in Juan, the Rodriguez principal of the middle school, to talk about alignment around their schedule with the sixth grade schedule as well. So I just wanted to provide this quick update. There's more that Dr. Z is going to share, but just thank you for the opportunity. And we're really looking forward to all that's going to happen with our Amherst schools come 26, 27, and actually this year too. So thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna move on to the leadership. And so what you're gonna notice is that we've put it in three buckets. And we've kind of narrowed it down into three specific areas and buckets. So the next one is leadership and staffing model. Um, I know that prior to the end of the school year, I presented a timeline around when the different steps would be completed, and I wanted to give us some buffer room. So the school leadership assignments will be communicated by at least September 15th. Our internal goal is September 1st, but we wanted to make sure that we were clear by September 15th to communicate those leadership assignments. There is an internal process that will be underway to identify who the school leadership will be, or different school leaders will be within the Amherst district. Um, and just ahead of asking, no, not yet. I'm not quite ready to share that publicly as to what that internal process is, but the internal process has been outlined. Um, Staff survey results. So the team, we talked early on about doing an initial survey, and I attached those results to board docs. And it was just an initial survey to say how everyone felt about the restructuring and more so the transition for sixth grade. I think that was a critical talking point with everyone, where everyone talked about the sixth grade move, and we wanted to know, what did staff feel like? Well, who was looking forward to moving? We even talked about in our most recent discussion around the survey results, we talked about the fact that we saw the retirement numbers, and those retirement numbers seem kind of low, but then they could be high. So I want everyone to understand that the survey results is fluid. It captured a snapshot in time. It also did not capture our full staff for Amherst, because it's 117 individuals. But in terms of our Unit A alone, we have 122 just in Unit A. So we know that, for example, our clerical, all of our paraeducators, and all of our other I call everyone educators. So educators in Amherst may not be captured in the results, but we do have a snapshot of a small percentage of our Amherst individuals. And then we're working on our staffing models for efficiency and equity across all schools. And the part that we need to be clear on is it's in alignment with the CBA. And this is why this is one critical point for everyone to understand, that we have three schools in the district. And when it comes to consolidation of staff, when it comes to how we move, we also have a collective bargaining agreement. That's what CBA is. And in that collective bargaining agreement, it has things that talks about seniority. So I say that to say that if, for example, we have to consolidate and someone is in a position in Wildwood, they can actually bump an individual in Crocker Farm based on their seniority and based on what the collective bargaining agreement calls for. So when we're looking at the staffing models, we're also looking at what are the guidelines that we as a district have to abide by. And one of the discussions that we had around is that as a leadership team, we want to make sure that we learn from past events. So for example, we talked about what occurred when Marks Meadows closed, and making sure that there was an adequate representation of staff and teaching staff across the district. And what would that look like as well? And we're looking at, when we talk about efficiency and equity, we're looking at skills and standards and instructional practices. Megan, next one. So the next couple of slides, we actually go into the survey results. Like I said, we had 117 survey responses. This is our summary data that we're going to walk through. And what we're going to talk about is, as a leadership team, we requested the raw data from Innovate K-12. We have that raw data. We just received it, but as a leadership team, we haven't had a chance to like delve through it and see what it truly says. So we're going to go through that raw data. So as you can see, out of the respondents, our largest number of respondents were our elementary gen ed teachers with 52 out of the 117. Next slide. Um, so it says, what grade level would you like to be considered for? I really love the fact that there was at least a good percentage of people that were still wanting to be considered for sixth grade. And as you can see, this is really for us to get into. Next slide, Megan. It kind of is better on the next one. We really wanted to get into where do their preferences lie. And you start to see in this one, in terms of first choice, second choice, third, and fourth, where individuals were able to say maybe sixth grade was their first choice. So, and then it'll be my final choice if I have to choose. So we're now thinking of how do we help the individuals who are wavering to see like this may be an area for you. Also looking at individuals and their comfort levels. We see a lot of individuals who, and we're not sure, as I said, we haven't delved into the raw data to see if maybe individuals who are interested in teaching third grade are kindergarten teachers. So we're not sure where these individuals currently lie. So because we haven't delved into that, but we did want to share at least what we're starting to look at or what we're looking at as a leadership team as we make placement decisions. Next one. So we would be remiss if we did not talk about the positives that came out of this. You have the full report, but I wanted to talk about a couple of the key things that I saw. So I pulled out space and environment, and I highlighted the theme. And the theme that I saw was the creation of it and having sixth grade in a dedicated building, which leads to teaching and improved teaching and learning conditions. For me, the one thing that I saw is that having our sixth graders where, and it actually, let me step back. The conversation that we had recently is that a K-5 model is not unique to Amherst. Like there are K-5 or for one or first through fifth grade schools throughout Massachusetts, throughout the nation. So this is not something that is new to or just unique to Amherst. This is a model that's in practice and being implemented nationwide and here in Massachusetts. I think what ends up being a little bit different is how we're implementing the sixth grade because it's housed in a building and it's not a part of the middle school model. But we're still working to make sure there's a level of cohesion in that. Next slide again. Oh, go back one. I also wanted to look at the positives that I saw when it came to emotional and community support. And educators express enthusiasm for forging new identities and cultures within their schools. This was important because I think a lot of the conversation, or even one of my anxieties with this, is making sure that there is no loss of the identities or the cultures, that this is a unified school. And it doesn't take away from the values and core of who or what the Amherst Elementary District represents. So it was really, really enlightening and encouraging for me when I saw that the educators themselves were excited about building something new that is cohesive and grounded in shared values. And so I found that to be very, very encouraging. And I wanted to highlight that this evening. In terms of the third bucket that we're going to present on our next slide is logistics and facilities. So we engaged Tim Ammon Consulting Group to help us in terms of boundaries, redistricting, route efficiency. And so Mike Gallo and Laurie Peterson, I've been working with them as well on our current routes. And it's been highly efficient. And so they've engaged in helping us in terms of what is this going to look like. So in terms of the boundary work, 80% of that work is completed. The final adjustments are on the way to the balanced enrollment across schools and grades. They've been looking at our projections over the past 10 years. So they've gone backwards and moved out and projected out. And so the target is that all boundary work and transportation impacts for the K-5 will be completed by the end of the month. in terms of sixth grade transportation modeling, that route model will be completed by the end of next week. And that's going to include the route count, student count by route and grades and estimated ride times. And the early indications of what they've done so far is that the ride time impacts will be marginal to in terms of student attendance. The next steps with this consultant is they're going to present the boundary model and the proposed facility utilization and sixth grade transportation impacts to the internal work group, the internal leadership. We're going to work through a lot of that, and then we're going to bring it forward to the school committee. Um, we we wanted to provide the update to show individuals that work is underway. We're not just sitting on things. So there's a lot of things that have been completed, and there's things that still need to be done, but we're very pleased with the work that we've done so far. Um, Next slide. In terms of community engagement, we've already outlined the listening sessions. And so for each month, I will be hosting and facilitating listening sessions, both for staff and parent and community. The titles will come out as a leadership team. We're kind of look at where we are and put forth the titles around what it is based on our where we are. But I think the initial listening sessions is really for us to be able to garner questions and feedback from the staff, garner questions and feedback and concern from the community in September, and then be able to come in October and provide them with updates. Come in November. I did not want to go past November on my calendar because my calendar ebbs and flows. But these dates we've already set aside and put in stone. One of the things that came back as good feedback from the listening lounges that we did with parents, that I did with parents previously, was having a virtual option allowed them to log in wherever they were. So especially the parent one would be virtual. I think for staff, if they are able to do a hybrid or even a virtual, that would be good for them as well. But the parents did like the fact that they had the virtual option. They could log in wherever they were. Many of them at that time were actually making dinner, and working through and asking their questions. So those will be virtual. And then the leadership team talked about the fact that we needed to engage the fifth graders once again, and give them an opportunity to talk about their excitements, their worries, and their anxieties around the sixth grade move. So in September, I will be visiting the three elementary schools and doing fifth grade student sessions, myself and the team, and engaging them into what are you excited about? What do you expect to see? And start to see where it is that, we can, again, engage them in their learning, but also kind of quell some of what's going to come forth. And so you'll notice that their dates are after the September 15th dates, so that at least then by then, when we walk in, they'll also be able to say, hey, this is the upcoming leadership in the district. So they will kind of be able to have that conversation with the leader of the sixth grade school that they'll be going into. And then the next slide talks about, within the three buckets that's presented today, how we plan to provide monthly updates. There are a lot of things happening in the district, and I can be a very overzealous individual. Let's just call a spade a spade. And so I say that, as well as I think that, honing in and just providing our program design updates at this time, our leadership and staffing updates at this time, like focusing in, will help us as a leadership team and help everyone to feel like there's things that are coming and communication moving. So based on what we have in our timelines in terms of dates and how we should be moving things, I dropped in the months that we would be able to provide a program design, a leadership, a logistics. And that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be able to probably add something to the update if it comes up at that time. But this actually gives us the opportunity to stick to something in terms of we will be providing the community with this moving forward. And I believe, Megan, that's our last one. Yes, thank you. So myself and the team, and again, I want to say I would be remiss if I don't say thank you to my team, and to everyone who came in. We are here um, to answer questions. We are here to talk about the work, and we're also here to take some feedback. And so I will stop talking. Megan, you could bring down the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Dr. Z. Are there school committee questions? Sarah?
I have many, but I'll just start with one. This is wonderful. I'm so relieved that so much work has happened this summer. Thank you very much. I'm very encouraged. Um, but I know everyone will really have to stick to the schedule to make everything happen smoothly. And one of the things I worry a little bit about, hopefully you can allay my concern, is that nothing is delayed because we don't have Desi's sign off on something. So can you just speak to that? Are we in good order? Is school committee going to need to take any specific votes, or, just that's my concern, my first concern.
The lease has to be submitted to the commissioner by December 1st. We did in this summer do a walkthrough of the middle school facility. The leadership team did and identified the wing where they think that it would be best for the middle school, in the middle school for the sixth grade to be housed. The reason why we're not ready to release that is because we would have to talk about where we're putting what is displaced when the sixth grade has that isolated area. We also would like to meet with the middle school teachers and staff to just engage them in that conversation. It's our goal, since we have that identified, it's our goal to have all of those conversations done by September. I also, in my monthly meetings, need to engage between myself and Shannon, the new finance director at the town, and the town manager, begin the conversation of the lease so that the lease can be vetted by our legal, by the town's legal. It has to be voted on by the school committee and then submitted, I believe, voted on by the school committee. I have to confirm. And then submitted to the commissioner, who has the final approval at DESE for the lease.
And does the regional school committee do both committees need to approve this lease?
So yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Shannon.
Shannon's little
I think she's gonna say something or something. The regional school committee does, but in that conversation, when I meet with the town manager, I think I am actually engaged on behalf of the regional school committee. It's one that I'm learning. So the regional school committee is who. Thank you, Shannon. So we're going to clarify, but we believe this regional school committee votes on it. We know they have to vote on it because it is their building. We have to clarify if Amherst school committee votes on it, because I believe the lease is going to be between the town of Amherst and the town of Amherst and the regional school committee.
The town of Amherst, because the Amherst elementary school budget is part of the town budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. And then it is then moved forward to the commissioner.
Thank you. So I hope that you'll be apprising the regional school committee early and often about that step.
Yes.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. I have some questions. Regarding this lease, so first of all, I'm sorry, Sarah just said something about because it's the town's budget. That's why the town is going to be the party engaging, but I don't think it's budget. Is it not budget related, because the town, like the school district, decides how to spend our own funds, and it's not a budget thing, is it? Or is it?
So my understanding is twofold. It's not just budget. It's kind of like the buildings belong to the town, but is managed by the school committee. Like there's a whole building thing, and so that's the part that when I came in, that's my understanding. It's kind of like when Wildwood is when Wildwood is closed, Wildwood doesn't go back to the town until the school committee turns it back over to the town, right? But I believe it's a town building, but it's a part of our budget to maintain it, to upkeep it, to do those things.
Okay.
I believe so. My understanding of this is that the town is leasing the space, and the town would then hand that space over to the school committee. That's how I've rationalized it for myself.
Okay, thank you. And so when you have this lease, will it be as specific as saying this is the hallway or these are the classrooms that the sixth grade will occupy?
Um, I don't think so. I think it goes like the number of classrooms, the cost per classroom, those types of things. So in case you have to move in the building or something
Right.
happens because of maintenance. So
Okay.
it would identify the numbers of classrooms, the cost per square footage, office space, those
Got it.
types of things.
Okay, thank you. And because you had mentioned meeting with the middle school teachers, and I know the middle school teachers have strong feelings and opinions about where the sixth grade should be located, and I think that their input should be strongly considered. I know that bathrooms are an issue. It's just a thing, and it's an important issue and an important thing. So I'm glad to hear you say that you're going to be talking with the middle school teachers because I think they're going to be able to give a lot of input into the layout of the building. Um, uh, okay, I should know this, but I still have some. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it. Will the sixth grade start time be the same as the elementary start time? Like they'll be getting on the bus the same time as the elementary students, or has that
So
not been decided yet?
So no, so that's why where Tanya spoke about when it came time for the sixth grade schedule, that they actually had the conversation with Wang in the room as the middle school, because it would be better for them to align to the middle school schedule in terms of the start time. And that helps us with transportation as well. Um,
Right.
and so they would not start the same as the K5 schools.
So would sixth graders be getting on the bus with their middle school with the 7 through 12 students?
Um, we haven't finalized the
No.
routes, but
Okay.
um more than likely, but I haven't I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no. So I don't want to commit to anything right now
Sure.
because once we meet on the timeline with the consultant around that. The one thing that I will say is that transportation costs in Amherst is a transportation cost for Amherst. So if we are running a separate bus for Amherst sixth graders, then that's a cost for Amherst, the Amherst district.
Right.
And so I don't see us not running through the models to see what's the most efficient and effective model. Um, but I don't want to commit to anything right now until we run through it.
Okay. I have one more just comment about boundaries and then I'll call on the others. You
Mm.
mentioned boundaries or catchment areas or deciding how our enrollment zones or whatever will be defined. And I wanted to say that I wasn't around back then, but my understanding is that the last time this district determined catchment areas or enrollment zones for the three at the time elementary schools, it was a kind of a big deal. And people had, members of the public
Had big
like,
feelings.
had a lot of opinions about it. So I guess my point is that I hope that or I would like, I'm asking you to plan that you present a proposal to the school committee. We get input, we talk about it, and then on the topic of first and second reads, and that we don't vote then, that we have time to get input and talk to the community about the new boundary lines before that we give the community sufficient time to look at them and digest it before we vote on it.
I don't disagree. I
Mhm.
think that that's why I made mention of Mark's Meadows and making sure that whatever we do, we learn from as much. I wasn't here, but as much as we can, we'll learn from the past and learn for the why. And a lot of the individuals who like we're all pulling together information based on what we may or may not know around that time. I believe I've reached out and or they've reached out to me and I have a meeting set up with an individual who I think was active during that time, but we're also like every leader who has been a part of the conversation has such a great knowledge and in-depth commitment to the Amherst district. And so sitting and listening and engaging and hearing like, hey, I think this is going to work better, Dr. Z. Hey, the community needs to hear this, Dr. Z, is where we're working at. So yes, we do plan to bring once we walk it through as a leadership team and as a body, and we question what's brought in forward. Then we'll bring forward the information to the school committee and then garner as much feedback as possible. But you guys should know by now, I like to be very comfortable in what I'm saying and presenting. And my team very much so feels like we should be the same way. Like we all need to be committed and agree enough on things. And so we know this is a very sensitive topic. Boundaries and staffing is very sensitive for us.
Thank you. And just last thing for me, or last thing for now, as much as I'm saying we need to take our time and get community input, I think it's also going to be important for families to know where their students are going to be going in the next year, in the next school year. I would say by the end of this calendar year. So however we do the timing and the meetings, et cetera, even if it means having to add a few extra Amherst School Committee meetings, I think we should. I can work with you, Dr. Zian, on making that happen, at least from a meetings perspective.
Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Sure. I'm going to call on Bridget and then Deb, then back to Sarah, and then I'll call on myself again. Bridget.
Well, so I love the level of positivity among the staff. Like it's really notable in regard to the new school building and all the opportunities it brings forward. Like I love seeing that. I have for the K through 6 school, I have an area of concern that I just
Through
like
5.
K through 5. For the K through 5, I'd like to see what the high needs projections are
Okay.
for the new school in Crocker Farm under this model, because I think that will be one thing that's important as we talk about equity. For the 6th grade move, uh, um, I was a little concerned by the data. You've got less than half interested in 6th grade, a very low percent with 6th grade as a first choice, a very small group, it seems like, willing to go to the 6th grade academy. But Desi's been so consistent that our 6th grade has to be a separate academy unless it integrates with the other 3 towns. I see a lot of inequities, and I wasn't here for this decision in the past, of having our 6th graders and Amherst separate. You think of it, the most clicky age, you're putting all the Amherst 6th graders together and the other towns on the outside. You're having like the whole year to get used to the middle school first for our 6th graders, and then those small towns coming in. Now, I'm the Amherst rep. Maybe I shouldn't worry about it, but I do. I care about all the kids, right? And also I'm just wondering, in my own personal experience, the 6th graders really carried so much gravitas in the school at the K through 6 model. Like they were the ones who were like the school leaders and really took care of the little ones, and they had such nice programs and stuff like that. So basically, I'm going to say the thing nobody wants to hear, but like, what are the options? Are there still any options on the table for not having that 6th grade solo? I just don't like it at all. And so, yeah, I'll let you answer that after I tell you one more positive thing, which is I just adore the idea that right now you're having the listening sessions with those students. And it would be great as you get to the end of the year, because with younger kids, younger development, like we have something similar about the move to the new school for them. So those are my thoughts.
I can't take credit for the 5th grade listening sessions. That is all the team. That was their suggestion, and I'm just following through on what they've asked. And so and it'll work. Like children have strong opinions just like adults do. Bridget, I neither was here when this decision was made. And so here's what I will say. I wish that it was as easy as making the middle school a true 6, 7, 8 model. I think that would be great, but that would require all 4 towns to open up the agreement and agree to expand the grades. There are pros and cons to 6th grade being in the middle school, because yes, they have a year to get ahead, but they also have the opportunity to take advantage of content-driven specialists. Like, for example, a middle school teacher in math is focused in math, right? They're like secondary math, whereas an elementary, and there are elementary specialists in mathematics and individuals in science. Um, the the 6th graders, to me, developmentally, they're going to be okay. They are. the concern that you have for the other towns, that rests with me as well. Is there any other space option? I asked that question and I was told that all the previous proposals were turned down. I said, well, can we do like some, I believe in West Springfield, there's just a kindergarten school, right? Can we partner with Pelham and do pre-K kindergarten? Do a first through second or first through third, and then do fourth, fifth, and sixth in our new building, like, or a 3 through 6 in our new building. But again, I came after all of the conversations and the decisions were made, and now I'm trying to make the battle that I'm faced with work in this short period of time because we don't have any more time to walk through what the various options are. We just now have to implement what was approved and do it in the best way possible. Um, and so that's what I would say. I've asked the questions in the first year, even to the point. I love your question about the high needs projections for Cracker Farm and a new school, and I know where you're going with it. You're going to say, is it going like every specialized program is now going to be in this new school, right? And that was one of my concerns. I got in the leadership meeting, I got feedback that kind of shifted that a bit, shifted my concern, which was with every specialized program in a new building, that means that every resource is in that building, which means that they can now tap into those resources a little more efficient and quickly, right? So the OTs are in that building, the um all the adjustment counselors, everyone else that has to support the specialized programs, they actually have access together. They can now collaborate and work together to provide the supports to all the programs. And so that was a different perspective I wasn't looking at because I was looking at this is a lot for one building. Um, and so that's what I will say. I will get you the numbers. I'll work on that. I believe that was a part of Tim's projections as well. So that because in that he has to be able to run our special education transportation numbers. So I believe at Amherst the last percentage and it was early was like I think 42.44 or something percent of our students were high needs and they were going to the new school. Um, and I am going to say that I am beyond questioning if this is the model that's going to work. I am to the place of this is the model that will work, and we are working together to put it in action.
Thank you, Dr. Z. Deb, Sarah, and then I'm going to call on myself again.
Debbie, on mute.
Yeah, got it. Just following up on, unfortunately, Bridget's question, because town councilors are very interested in the cost efficiencies of having the sixth grade be part of the region, and I continue to hear that song. So if you wouldn't mind repeating the DESE perspective on that particular issue, I think it stands to be read into the record one more time.
Sure. So for the sixth grade to be a part of the region, it has to be a part of the regional agreement. The region as it stands is a 7-12 region. All four towns would have to amend a regional agreement. The only other way that can be done is through special legislation, and that would require a legislator to go in and craft that legislation for that to happen. Right now, that has not happened. So the four towns would have to come together, open the regional agreement, and amend it so that it can then state that it is a 6-12 region. And then it will be a part of the region, the middle school. It will be a part of the middle school in that regard.
So just
It's not as simple as going and saying, we want you to be a part of the region and
yes.
it's a part of the region.
So just to wrap it up, then, there is no option for the Amherst sixth grade only to become part of the region. If we were to reopen the regional agreement, all four towns would have to agree that their sixth grades attend as well.
That's my understanding. They would not just attend as well, but they would have to agree that it is a 6-12 region. And being that they're agreeing that it's a 6-12 region, it would mean that their sixth graders are coming to the region.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
No
So I
problem.
had a couple more questions. Just curious about how it works in terms of the transportation reimbursement for the region, because if sixth graders are going to, if six, I guess, when you reveal the plan, I would want to know if that impacted the transportation reimbursement that the region gets for the state.
I'm gonna hand that over to Shannon. Unlikely. That's the answer. So
Okay.
you will.
That's good enough for now. And my last question was, I also wasn't paying a whole lot of attention at the time when Marks Meadow met its fate. But I remember discussion afterwards about how the redistricting didn't necessarily take into account the fact that people could rent in a different district should they decide they would prefer a different school zone. I don't know how robust that piece of anecdotal evidence is, but I hope that you're, if it did happen last time, it doesn't happen this time, that we don't wind up with people just crossing the street and
And
decide-
moving.
and changing schools.
Okay.
That's all.
We will take that into consideration. I know this is not usual, but I did want to, as superintendent, hand off to Derek. I think he wanted to expand on,
Yep.
on something that was previously stated. Derek?
Yeah, thank you. Is that okay if I join in for a quick second? Just
Yeah. I
Okay.
get to hand off some time to you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, and let me just make sure I show my face so you know that that's me. Probably not too many Scottish people calling in, but so I just wanted to say a couple of quick things. I think one is that historically, and I perhaps don't have this completely right, but historically, we were going to build a new school, remember, of 750 students way back 10 years ago, right? And the whole idea was to accommodate us through a certain grade level so that we could keep our sixth graders in place. And that just fell by the wayside for a number of different reasons, right? We can all argue who was right or wrong about that, but we certainly made a decision as a town to step out of that process a number of years ago because anyway, for a number of reasons. And so I think that's important to remember, and that this is not something that we were all jumping up in joy for and wanting to happen, but it is going to happen. And I think we have to, like anything, change is very difficult. We're very much creatures of habit. K through 6, I've worked in the school district 29 years, K through 6. We've loved it, but it's time to change it. And we're going to, I think the framework, my father was a builder when he was younger in his life. And I think the framing is really important of any new building. And I think we're in a good place right now where I think we've got some really good ideas about how to frame a really wonderful sixth grade. So anyway, I say that. The other thing I would say that I think is really important in this, and I think Bridget was actually alluding to this a few seconds ago about high needs. It's sort of like a new term that I think is envelopes like a whole series of different things. We like back 10 years ago when we were doing this, we really need to have to think about the preschool when we're thinking about all these changes. Last year, there was over 95 students enrolled in preschool. At least 50 of them would be categorized as, quote, high needs. And it just so happens that it's in the Crocker Farm school. And I do think going forward, if Elizabeth Burns was on here right now, and I know pre-K is perhaps not under the jurisdiction of this committee, or it is, I can't really remember.
It is.
But if we are going to be really looking after students for their futures, the preschool is such an important piece in terms of development for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, particularly students who are coming from marginalized backgrounds or very impoverished backgrounds, however you want to frame it. So I think when we're considering those pieces, just like we did when we broke Marks Meadow apart, and I was there as a parent. Both my children were Marks Meadow students. We looked at some of the work of, I think, Richard Kallenberg he was working for the Ed Trust, I think, at the time. And what we really did is we looked at the neighborhoods to make sure that there was a sort of equity in terms of, particularly social class in terms of the numbers of the various schools. So there's certainly ways to do that. But the pre-K thing needs to be considered when we're thinking about how we're going to, satisfy the 575 in the new school and the 300 odd at Crocker Farm that could be expected to be there. I for one, really work hard this year to help with this transition, and to make sure that it's as beautiful as it can be. Thank you for letting me ramble for a few seconds.
Thank you,
you, Mr.
Derek. I
Shen.
appreciate you so much.
All right, I'm
Sharon?
going to Sarah and then me and then back to Bridget.
Yeah. So first, I just respond to Derek, or to something Derek said. I guess in a perfect world, the preschool would also be at the new school, but it can't be, is my understanding, because the building has to be designed, would need to have been designed to accommodate such young children. And I don't think it is. And so I guess that won't happen. So they will stay at Crocker Farm. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. You had something?
No, I said yes. And the new building did not account for the number of preschoolers. So they
Right.
were not accounted for in the population.
Right. Okay. So my question, so the one surprise in your presentation was that the commandant, and it's not that it's good or bad, it's just that commandantes will in fact stay at the new school. That's all fine, along with you said the specialized programs. So my first question about all that is, there, and I forget the pioneers, I forget the name for the just all English classes. There will not be any all English only K-6, K-5 in the new
Uh,
school.
I'm
And-
I'm gonna
okay,
no.
that's
No.
half my question. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna let Tanya expand on my answer, but I'm going to say that one of the key things that currently affects Fort River is that it actually runs as two separate schools.
Right.
And to, it has brought me, I made this comment before, it has brought me some feedback. I think the Caminantes program is a valuable program. I think that it has expanded to the point that it can be its own school in actuality. Um, and in the work that Tanya and the principals have done in terms of the program design, they have now worked it where it is supposed to run as one complete school with this program on the inside. So Tanya, I'll let you talk more critically on the work that was done.
Sure. But yes, so K-5 will have English students. There will be the English speaking classrooms, and then there are the two Spanish speaking classrooms. From the, I want to say, April 2022 educational program that was approved by school committee at that time also included Comandantes in the new building. So that is just a agreement around that. What we're looking at is ensuring that there's one schedule for all students at the new school, whatever that new school's name is, not two separate things. So all students, no matter the program that they're in, be there in Ames or ILC or Building Blocks, Comandantes, the English speaking classrooms, everyone attends the new school. And so we'll make sure, one of the things that we talked about was ensuring that the schedule for the new school has a cohesion and a cohesiveness to it that allows for all programs to get the things they need, but also that there's no delineation between there being separate populations or portions of the school.
Right. Thank you. My second half to the question then is, if the Comanante students still can come from any part of Amherst, do we still have the two bus problem and the loss of learning and that whole mess?
We talked about that too.
No solution yet, I assume.
we're gonna wait
Still
until
working on it.
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna wait, and that's a part of the boundaries work that the other team is doing in terms of transportation routes and efficiencies. It is a concern in terms of the loss of it, and like Tanya stated, there was the instructional plan or academic plan that was educational plan that was already approved for the new building. The outline that everything was going to be housed there. So we're going to work on that. Our goal is to have a reduction in the loss of instructional time. But as of right now, until we've done that final leg of work in terms of the efficiencies and the models, then that's where we're going to be at.
Okay. My last question is about the boundary work. Can you can you tell us what variables the consultant, I think it's a consultant, is considering in drawing the boundaries? Does it include income, family income? Does it include race? I mean, besides the obvious geography, but does it, I mean, what's being taken into account in this boundary work?
So I would have to say that when the socioeconomics is considered, but it's not the primary um, factor, demographics, there are various demographic information that's being used. So once they present, they'll be able to tell us the different models that they've put forward. I don't want to misrepresent, but socioeconomics is into consideration. I think that the last time, what I've learned is that the last time that lines were drawn, it wasn't just about socioeconomics. It was also about making sure there was a balance in um, representation of various cultures and everyone across the different schools. So we want to make sure we honor that because that lines up with the core values of Amherst. And so once we've had that presentation and walk through, then we can kind of come back and say, this is what was used.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I'm calling on myself. I have two things. First, Dr. Z, earlier you said when you were talking about staffing decisions, staffing placements, you were talking about the APEA contract, and you said something to the effect of, for example, a Wildwood teacher could bump a Crocker Farm teacher. But I just wanted to make sure my understanding is that bumping happens based on seniority. It's not like the contract says a Wildwood teacher can bump a Crocker Farm teacher. It's that a teacher can bump, a staff person can bump another staff person if under certain circumstances if they have more seniority. Is that
Correct.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Just
So
wanted to,
yeah, I
just wanted to
guess I hope the community understands that because when we look at seniority, we look at it by district. We don't look at it by building. And so that's why I wanted to make sure the conversation is across district wide.
Great, thank you. And
Okay.
also, can you briefly describe the role that the Innovate K through 12 consultant played in this work?
Sure. So they're actually a consultant that, oh, sorry. And I want to say licensure as well. My team is
Sure.
telling me, don't just say seniority, but also licensure takes. So making sure we looked at licensure as well. So Innovate K-12 is actually a company that we have been using to get out our survey and collect our information backwards. So really what they do is they help us develop the surveys, the links, and then they help us process down the information. So that's the work that they've been doing. We've been using them for various surveys, employee surveys, community surveys, across the work that we're doing to help us bring that together.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Bridget and then Deb.
Okay, so crazy question, but any interest from the three towns for reopening the agreement? Have you had those conversations? I think Doug told us before, because this wasn't news, I guess, Desi's standpoint. But, I know there's conversations among the four towns on the budget. That might be a budget issue.
I can say I have not broached the four towns reopening it around the sixth grade. I personally have not broached it. I know that with the budget and the regional agreement in terms of finances, that has been individuals are up and down around whether or not some people want to, some people don't want to, some people want to leave it the way it is. I think that what would have to come from that is I would have to call a four towns meeting and ask the four towns if they're open for that. But I think that would at this point, as we develop fiscal year 27, in terms of the editing of the regional agreement, I would say that would be a fiscal year 28 because whatever it is that we have to like, we would have had to broach that this discussion from last year to get all four towns to agree to walk through that. Like we know the processes and the individuals, they would have to come to meetings with quorums. It's not one that I'm not committed to possibly opening this year and see if maybe we can present like, hey, we had a successful year with the sixth grade at the middle school, and this is what it looks like. These are the benefits. This is what the data is saying. And see if we can then also use that as a stepping stone to launch into let's reopen and expand. So I've learned that a lot of times individuals have to be shown the benefit of something before they really understand the benefit of it. And that might be the work that come from Amherst successfully implementing the sixth grade academy or school in the middle school.
Okay, so there are a couple more things. I'll put them out there. One is just that it's my understanding, so I'd love if someone corrects me if I'm wrong, that the sixth grade move isn't going to give us budget savings, because you need another principal, maybe an AP. You're going to need specialists to come to the school. You're going to have all those specialized programs. Maybe we're going to have a commonantes, like, so I just want like to start to set the understanding, because I've sat in JCPC, for example, and other town meetings where at town council where people are saying, oh, but we're going to get so many cost savings from the new school. So there's that. The other thing is, I just wanted to reiterate what Jennifer said. I know there was past committee work done by the middle school teachers on looking at the layout and stuff like that. And Heather Sullivan Flynn was involved in that. You might want to reach out and connect with her, because why do extra work? And it would sort of give you an idea where they were thinking. And so the last thing on the sixth grade is that as we go forward, I'd love to hear more about those like great ideas for a flourishing sixth grade academy. If we're, I cannot accept reality as well. I just am not in love with it. And the last thing on the elementary is, I think that stuff that Derek was talking about social class is going to be key, as well as the high needs and like what the experience is for the teachers in the schools of how many needs they're meeting. Because my concern is we end up with one highly preferred school, and nobody wants that, whether it's the new one or Crocker in the end. I think we want two really highly preferred schools. So.
I agree, Bridget. I want to say that you've been in the budget meetings, you've been in the FinCom meetings where I've consistently, repeatedly pushed back and said, you keep acting like we're going to two buildings, you're still running three schools. We are going to yield some cost savings, but it's not going to be as much as they're expecting us to yield. It's unlikely it's going to be the amount that I think that they're projecting is like in the millions, or the 500,000s and stuff. Like, we're not, like, there is going to be some opportunity to share staff. And we spoke to Desi about that. We had that conversation with them, like, what is it? And they were like, you need to clearly delineate your fiscal lines, right? You need to know that this is this district, this is this district, and these are the clear fiscal lines. And at the same time, we still have to look at licensure. We still have to make sure that the individuals teaching are licensed for the curriculum and content that these children are supposed to receive. And so we also need to know, and I think it was Jennifer who asked me the question about riding the bus, and I answered it. But I need to expand on that answer and say, the minute that we disconnected the sixth grade from the K-5, from the K-6, we then projected them into a secondary model, which means that as a standalone school, under the regulations, I believe that they have to abide by the 990 and not the 900 if they were under elementary. So that in itself as well is a shift in the program design. So there are things, we have been looking at it. I know that this budget year gives all of us angst as leadership teams, and that's why we're working to make sure we kind of push ourselves, and so we will continue to give you the updates as you requested. But I do want to say that there are some things that as we go through 900. Thank you, Tanya. 900 or 990? 900? 990. Okay. All right, we're going to clarify all of those things. And that's why every month we're going to have like a set design and be like, hey, this is what this is going to look like. This is what that is going to look like. Because there are programmatic requirements when we separated the sixth grade, and there are also fiscal requirements when we separated the sixth grade.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I'm going to call on Deb and then Sarah. But actually, I know you're going to expand on this more, but I don't understand the references to 900 and 990. What are those?
Those are the state required instructional hours, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Deb and then Sarah.
Hi, yeah, this is so complex, which I'm sure taps your puzzle brain nicely, and stretches your team, and it's nice to see them uh, shine. Uh, and yeah, it's complicated. Adding to a complication um, is my looking at enrollment data, and it's not clear if we're actually, they always, the building was designed with the idea that our population would continue, the Amherst elementary population would continue to decline. It does not look like it's really hard to tell if that's going to happen. It looks like it's leveled off, or there might be a slight uptick. So that's concerning to me. Um, I'm glad Derek brought up the preschool, because that's also been on my mind. When Elizabeth Burns made her presentation, she made it clear that in the pipeline there's going to be some students that are coming to the preschool. So I'm just going to throw this out there because this is what I do. But there's the Southeast Campus building that used to house the Summit Academy. I know you don't like it, but I'm not saying leave it the way it is. I went to a listening session by the town conducted about what to do with that building. And they're talking apartments, and they're talking, all sorts of things. I think it'd be a great location for a preschool. And Bridget always talks about the fact that some districts, preschools are actually generating money for the district. We have a great, great program. And, I don't want to further impact Crocker and its culture, but if we do have that need, they're deciding now what to do with that. And the schools get first dibs on it. So I would encourage you, at least if you're looking at space and thinking about preschool and what the preschool is going to look like 5 years out in terms of need, just to make sure we have enough space for all our students, and we don't have to, after building this very expensive building, we don't have to start sticking kids in modular buildings.
So I'm gonna say I echo your concerns. When I came in, one of my first question is, how do we take the two largest schools whose populations add up to about 700 students together and put them into one school with less of a population than the two populations together? But I left it at that. Our pre-K generates maybe around 35 to maybe 40,000 a year. So, which provides us with an insight that if we were able to expand or really like push that program forward, that it could generate its own funding because it generates enough right now. I also know that we don't have the spacing in the district. I think in one of our leadership meetings, it was Derek Self who talked about the fact that our population is going to increase over the next few years, and we may not have the space to keep that population going. So that's a reality that we're going to have to face, because projections are just that, projections, right? It doesn't take into account that families may move into different spaces. UMass may have this random influx of individuals and grad students who have multiple students and families, and these things are going to occur. So there is in the back of my mind, where I'm not just thinking about the 590 for this year. I'm thinking about what is it going to look like in the next couple of years, 5-6 years from now, and I don't know where we're going to be without the spacing. The Southeast campus does need a lot of work, but to my understanding, I believe the committee has already handed it back over to the town. Is that true? I don't know. If not, Sarah Marshall, well, Jennifer, Sarah has her hand up. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would need a lot of work, and that would require us to shift our capital. And for me, the conversation that we had recently is, as a leadership team, is taking into account that we would have one new building, but we have a building that's 60 years old that houses our pre-K program and is going to be our second elementary school. And Crocker is going to need some work to keep it moving forward. So we, at this time, it's actually making sure that we have an operational plan in place to sustain Crocker as our building that's going that's going to be our older building, which it is, and make sure that it can still function as a school. But Jennifer, Sarah wanted
Yes, Dr. Z. Sarah, and then I'd like to wrap up this topic. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. So first about the Southeast campus. So it must be at least a year ago when I heard the town was soliciting ideas for what to do with that space. I reached out to the town manager and said, when did the school committee give this up? He like, did it? And I've asked twice and never gotten an answer. I suppose we could comb through our own minutes, or ask former committee members if they remember. So the town seems to believe we did. I don't know. On the other hand, we haven't been responsible for maintaining it, so there's that. But the thing I'd raised my hand about is a question, or to Dr. Z. I hope that there is a plan for communicating by Parent Square or whatever, something updates about all this planning, because very few people watch these meetings, and I'm sure fewer even read our minutes. So it's one thing to be inviting families to come to the various forums or discussions or whatever, but I think I would ask you to make sure that there's something going out at least monthly to all families about where things are at and what's coming up in the schedule you've communicated to us.
Okay, we can definitely do that with our updates and make sure that maybe even summarizing what was done today into like its own update and sharing that with everyone, and say, look forward to listening sessions on this day, look forward to these types of things coming forward. So
Yeah.
we can definitely work to do that and have that put out.
Sure, the earlier dates are announced for,
Right.
The better. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
that works.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Dr. Z and Mr. Shea and Tanya for your input and for talking with us today. We really appreciate it. Our next agenda topic is future agenda planning. Are there any topics that members would like to see on future agendas? Bridget.
So I know that when we presented the school equity advisory committee to the region, that many Amherst committee members expressed a desire to include the elementary school. And so I think we should put that on an agenda and just at least have a formal vote on that expansion.
Sounds good. Deb and then Sarah.
Speaking of including the elementary school, there was some discussion, I don't remember where it ended up, about making the superintendent, the RSC superintendent committee, evaluation committee, joint committee.
All right, I will look into that. I think it is, but I will look into that.
Okay.
I have to say my status on it was kind of ambiguous. I was on it, but with.
Okay. Yes, I'll check in with the regional chair about that.
Okay.
I thought it was joint, but we'll confirm. Sarah?
Yeah. Oh, it almost like math. I'm sure we all want our sixth graders to be ready for seventh grade algebra, and that definitely has not been the case. And I mean, everybody's very busy, I know, but I don't know if Tanya or the superintendent have had the time to think about how we can strengthen the supports around math for kids and get them up to speed. So that I'm always concerned about that. Yeah.
And sorry, just to clarify, this is about math for sixth graders or in general?
Well, the whole elementary math program being that the students are adequately supported so that they are ready for 7th grade, and we don't see then the great divide and who can do algebra or honors or, you know, everybody should reach 7th grade able to take the higher level tracks if they want.
Okay, I'll talk with the superintendent about adding that to a future agenda. Thank you. All right. I will move that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. Sarah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Deb,
Yes.
Jennifer's a yes, and Bridget.
Yes.
Great. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry again to be late.
No problem.
Okay. Good night.